All right, we are live. Thank you guys for coming here today for another webinar of Pro Seller Talk Presents. My guest today is Nathan Hirsch. Nathan is a good friend of mine, been around for a while, a lot of knowledge, does a lot of good things. He's the CEO of Freed Up, and he's going to talk about a little bit about what he does. If you have not met Nathan or don't know Nathan, he's a really good guy, down to earth, honest, and all he wants to do is help you grow your business any way he can also. Hey, Nathan, for the ones that have not been here and for the ones that are here that have not met you or don't know who you are, why don't you introduce yourself and tell them a little bit about you?
Yeah, John, thanks for having me again. I'm really excited to do this. I love talking about hiring. I started my own Amazon business back when I was 20, and I didn't really know what was going on or what the potential was or how to hire anyone or run a business in general. So I really started from nothing with 20 bucks, ended up building a multi-million-dollar Amazon business out of my college dorm room and really learned from there. I mean, I made every mistake that an entrepreneur can make, and I had a lot of success and a lot of fun along the way. So I like to share what I've learned with other people so they can kind of learn from that and build from that. And one thing I noticed right off the bat, once my business started to grow, was that I just needed more people. I ran out of I ran out of time to interview people. I ran out of time to just do the work, whether it was customer service or finding products or filling orders. There's just a shortage of hours in the day. And once I opened up an office and started hiring full-time people, it just became crazier and crazier because I was spending 50% of my time going through applications and multiple rounds of interviews and so many things that go along with the HR process and the HR nightmare. And I've talked to a lot of people that get turned off by the exact same things. Either they've made bad hires before that have cost them time and money, or they just don't have the time for it, or they just hate doing it. So I really wanted a better way to hire, and a company that I wish I had when I was hiring is my second company, Free Up. Where essentially, instead of going on the job boards like Upwork and Freelancer and all those, we get hundreds of applicants every week. We filter them for you. We make them available to you, first come, first serve, and we're very hands-on to make sure that you have everything you need to make a successful hire and have a good experience and motivate them and get the most out of them. So that's really what Free Up is all about. So yeah, I'm going to share my screen. Can you see everything there?
I can.
Perfect. All right. I'll leave this a little smaller.
Ask in the chat. Can you guys hear Nathan okay? If you can, say yes. Just say yes, yes, yes. And if you can see his screen, say yes, you can see the screen also. I can see the screen fine.
Can they hear me?
I asked them if they could hear you. I have not got a response back yet, so I don't know.
Yes, yes.
Yep, yes, yes. So.
All right, I'll keep going.
For that.
So I like to talk a lot about the 3 stages of hiring, right? You've got the upfront where you're finding people, you're recruiting, you're identifying what you want, and you're really putting them through that interview process to see if they're the right fit. Then you've got the center part where you find workers, you onboard them, you introduce them to your team, you train them, you set the goals and expectations, so that kind of middle section. And then you've got the end section where once they're integrated and it's time for them to show you what they have to offer, you work on motivating them and keeping them and lowering turnover and getting the most out of them. So I kind of took little parts from each section and put them into this PowerPoint. If you've seen any of my other webinars or podcasts, I kind of dive deeper into one or the other. But I kind of wanted to share some 5 ninja hacks to manage remote teams based on how I've built these armies of freelancers. And I have a group of freelancers for my Amazon business, and then I have my 20-person internal team in Free Up, and then I've got over 300 workers in my network of Free Up that although we're not really managing them in a sense, we are. And we're also recruiting and vetting them and motivating them and building a company culture. So a lot of it really flows through in all 3 aspects of that.
Awesome.
So yeah, I kind of mentioned I started my business in college. I remember when I first started making money, and it was the first time in my life I had made real money. I went to my accountant, and he was like, okay, when are you hiring your first person? And I was like, what do you mean? I love working every day. I love working 7 days a week. I don't want to pay anyone else. I like making all the money myself. He just laughed at me. And I remember that day like it was yesterday, and it kind of clicked in my head. It's like, okay, at some point I need a day off. At some point I'm going to run out of hours in the day and other people are going to have to do stuff. And although I think I'm good at a lot of things, I'm really just not good at everything. It'd be better to get someone who's good at the things that I'm not good at. I can speak. I know customer service very well. I know sales. I know processes. I'm not the best writer in the world. I'm not the best graphic designer in the world. So adding people with those skill sets to my team could really take me to the next level. And that's when that light bulb really went off, and I became determined to hire. Unfortunately, I was still in college, so the people that I was hiring from were a lot of college kids, which had a lot of mixed experiences, which I don't necessarily recommend doing. But I'll kind of jump ahead. But it's definitely not easy to hire, whether you're a college kid, whether you're a business owner for the first time. It is tough. It is frustrating. It never really goes as smoothly as you think it will. So a lot of this is just some tips to really help you out and make the process a little easier from you. And it was kind of cool. I saw from this person that watched my YouTube video that I launched yesterday. She was like, hey, I just used your hiring method to hire this worker and it took me way less time. And that was very rewarding for me. So hopefully you guys get the same thing out of it.
That's cool.
So I have a lot of firsthand experience about hiring and training remote workers. I remember when I first learned about Upwork and Odesk, or it was called Odesk at the time, I thought it was the greatest thing ever because I had all these employees that were making $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 a year and working 40 hours a week. And I never felt like I was getting my money worth because they would spend, whether it was 10 hours a week, 20 hours a week, doing these very repetitive data entry tasks. And I was paying them top dollar to do it. And a lot of them weren't even specialists at those small tasks, whether it's Excel work or basic listing, stuff like that. So what I ended up doing was finding all these international remote workers and assigning assistants to my main employees. So my main employees, they were mandated to only work on top level things. And anything below top level, you need to tell me, I'll get you an assistant, and they'll be able to focus and take that stuff off your plate. And it really helped accelerate the company and led to the fastest expansion that we had ever seen after we integrated those assistants. And it is a lot of trial and error. I mean, what works today may not work in 5 years. It may not work in 2 years. But a lot of it is learning, even if you're maybe not 100% sure if you should hire, whether it's going on Upwork and setting up interviews or doing it through FreeUp, just kind of getting a feel for what's out there, what you can add to your team. And a lot of people that you interview, they'll have ideas and concepts that they've taken from other experiences and companies. And you can tell them like, hey, I've never hired before, or this is one of my first hires since I had this bad experience. Let's work together to make this smooth, or what should I know about you? So there's a lot of trial and error that you can go through without having to spend a lot of money and really dive into it, just to get a feel for what's out there. So these hacks are designed to help manage and influence your team of remote workers. One thing I want you to keep in mind is turnover is very expensive. If you're going to spend all that time interviewing and recruiting people and finding that person for you, you better treat them right and have them stay long-term. Even if they're just part-time, even if they're a graphic designer that you just like here and there that you use for projects, you want to have a Rolodex. You want to have people in your back pocket. So get in the habit of thinking, not only do I have to find these people, but I need to keep them on my team, and their success is my success as well. And there's a lot of this stuff applies to new and veteran business owners too. So let's kind of dive right into it. One more slide, sorry. So the end goal is improved communication and consistency. Communication's everything. I don't care if you have the most talented people in the world, if your entire team is incredibly smart, if you guys can't communicate, if they can't communicate with you and with the other people on their team, you're never going to have success. It's one of the biggest things I preach at FreeUp. It's why we have 15 pages of communication guidelines. It's just so important. So make sure you have strong communication. Make sure the workers speak the same language as you. Make sure they have the respect to tell you when they're going to go on vacation or go on breaks, or just update you on projects. You don't want to assign a project and 2 weeks later get an update and realize it's all wrong. So communication is incredibly important. You want people that have strong work ethic and commitment. So I kind of break down recruiting into 3 things. You've got their skill set and how much experience they have. Then you've got their attitude and commitment to you. Are you their highest priority? Do they actually like work, or are they just in it for a paycheck? And then last is communication, because I mentioned how important that is. And all these factors go into freeing up your time. The most talented that a person, the most skilled a person is, the more skilled a person is, the easier it is going to be for you. You're going to have to do less training, less babysitting, and all that. On the center side, if they have a great attitude and you're not constantly having to motivate them to work, that's going to save you time as well. And if they have strong communication, you'll have less hassle and less repeating and less chasing people down. So keep in mind the end goal is to free up your time and to really grow your company. And as a business owner, you should really be focused on marketing and sales. Everything you're doing, whether it's an investment in your company, whether it's going out and calling clients or getting new products and new revenue streams, it's got to be focused on that. So if you don't know where to start, take the small stuff off your plate, the stuff that doesn't have to do with sales and marketing. Anything from customer service to data entry tasks to QuickBooks, just things that don't actually grow your company, because growth in the initial years is just so important. So finally, hack number 1, hire for excellence. So how to secure a great worker for your very first interview. So one thing to keep in mind when you're hiring is you need to know what you want. If you don't know what you want, you're not going to be able to find that fit. So before you even post a job or start the interview process, make sure you identify that. And you can take those tidbits from me in terms of communication and attitude and skill set, but it also has to do with, okay, what schedule do you want? Is it flexible or set schedule? What's the price range that you're willing to pay? Do you want a US or non-US worker? If it is multiple skill sets, how skilled do they have to be on each thing? Is it someone that's an expert at QuickBooks, but they also know what Zoom webinar or whatever the other software is? So really identify what your perfect worker looks like so you can recruit for that and never settle for less. You want to focus on what you want, find it, and then once you find it, don't let those people go. So when you are doing those interviews and recruiting, look for the small things. Look for them showing up on time. Look for other commitments they've had in the past. Do they stay at companies long? Are they bouncing around? If someone's a career-long freelancer doing one-time projects, chances are they're looking for a lot of one-time projects. If they come to their interview and they seem like they're being forced to be there, or they're not having fun, or for me, I tell them about Free Up and I look for that spark in their eyes. Is it something that they want to be a part of, the culture, the community, the workers that work together as a team and have great clients? And if that doesn't excite them, again, I'm really not interested. That's a real red flag for me. So if you sell baby products or pet products, and a lot of times you're really passionate about what you do, look for people that are really passionate about what you do as well, or at least interested, or the thought of working with you and being part of your company or your operation excites them. Someone with strong work ethic and desire to help your business, it will shine through. There are signs, whether it's someone that went the extra mile in their last job, whether it's something where you tell them one thing and they're like, hey, have you ever thought about doing this? Or whether they're bringing skills to the table that you don't have. I compliment my business partner, Connor, very well because he's really good at the writing and the marketing and the creative side of it, where I'm very good at the processes and the logic and the problem solving side of it. So try to find people that can bring something else to the table that you don't have internally already. John, feel free to chime in and add anything if you think of it.
Sure.
So filtering through workers is not always easy. And if you don't use a service like FreeUp, there are lots of applicants and you should never settle. If you're posting a job on Upwork, you might want to wait a few days for lots of applicants to come in. You might want to go through 100 applicants before you find the right person. But just remember that making the wrong hire costs you a lot more than it ever would just going through those extra rounds of interviews or extra resumes. I mentioned before that you can try people out. Maybe you don't have to commit long-term. Maybe you hire someone for a one-time project or multiple people for a one-time project, and then decide who you want to hire long-term. So if you haven't hired before, feel free to just get your feet wet a little bit, try people out, hire them for a few hours. I don't necessarily recommend free trials just because I'm kind of against it morally, but it's not the end of the world to pay someone to do a little bit of work for you to test them out before committing to them full time. And just doing that can save yourself a lot of time and trouble. If you schedule 2 rounds of interviews and they show up late for the second interview, you might not want to give them a third chance. A lot of people that aren't reliable up front aren't going to be reliable down the line. So hack number 2, and I know I mentioned that we're going to jump around through the 3 different parts of hiring, reinforce value. And this is all about retention. When you find someone you like and you've given them that test or you're ready to get them started, show them how they are contributing to your company and show them that you value them and you appreciate them. I'll kind of give you a little insight. So hiring developers has always been hard for me. I'm not a developer. I'm not a programmer. I speak a very different language. I speak in business talk, and a lot of them don't relate to that. So when I find a good developer that I like working with, that I communicate, and I apologize for the dog in the background. I adopted a puppy like 5 days ago, and he's been pretty well behaved. So when I finally found a developer, and I recently found one that I really like working with, he communicates well, which is tough for a developer. He does work quickly. He's always going that extra mile. He'll actually come with ideas to the table rather than just doing things that I tell him to do. I tell him how much I appreciate him, and even those little words, and you don't have to necessarily throw huge bonuses at them, although I do recommend that at the end of the year. Just telling people that you value their time and that you appreciate their contribution, or when they launch something, show them how it influenced the company. I mean, if you hire someone to do tactical arbitrage and they're finding all these products for you, show them, hey, like I just bought all these and it resulted in X amount of revenue or X amount of profit. People want to know that their work is valued. They don't want to just get a sheet of paper with a bunch of different numbers on it. They do their work, hand it back to you, and you're like, okay, here's the next one. That's not motivating. And in the second someone gets a better job offer down the line, more money, it could even be $1 more, they're going to jump away, and all that training and investment that you put into them just goes away. And I mean, I don't want to lose this developer. It took me forever to find him. So making sure that he's valued and appreciated is huge. Each worker has a skill and function that adds value. So a lot of it is on you to figure out where someone fits in. Hey, sorry, John. So each worker has a skill and function that adds value. So finding out how to get the most out of people is incredibly important. You might hire someone for one thing and realize that they're better fit in another part of your company. So I like to hire people that have a wide variety of skill sets and really test them out and see where they shine. If they know how to do Facebook ads, and they know how to write, and they know how to do a little graphic design, I might try them in different places and see where they fit in and how that complements me and how that goes. Really emphasize that they're part of a team and not just an individual. Even if you're hiring a freelancer and or a contractor, I mean, we have 300 plus contractors, and every single one of them will tell you that they are part of a team, and that they love being there and they love the team atmosphere. There's no one out there that doesn't love that team environment. And if they do, you don't want to work with them. So just keep that in mind, and really try to make them feel like they're part of your company and part of something great. Good workers like to be challenged. Giving someone repetitive tasks over and over again is just not, eventually they're going to want to do something else. They're going to want to do more. So have some kind of structure for improvement, for growth. Even if it's little things, whether it's a small raise, or maybe you make them a manager, or give them the responsibility of training a new worker. People like that. People want that extra responsibility. So it might be fine for 6 months or so. Just make sure there's some kind of small or maybe big advancement depending on the position as you go along.
I think too, Nathan, not to interrupt you, but I think too that it's important that you, like we do it with our workers here and everyone that works for us, it's important that you let them know. I think it's very interesting you said that you're not looking for someone that just wants to come in and get a paycheck and go home. We teach that same value, and what we teach is that the vision, our vision, and what our vision is. And we always have everyone buy into our vision and understand that our vision can't happen without them. So they're a big part of that vision, and we always let them know that they're a big part of that vision, and that, you know, the things and how they're going to go and how things are going to happen, a lot of it is based on them and them buying into that vision and understanding that, like you said, having incentives and things like that down the road. We let them know that, hey, listen, you could start out here, and in 12 months from now, if you're doing the things that you need to do as part of our vision, you can double your pay. Because as we grow, you're going to grow. So you got to kind of, like you said, I like what you said about let them know, because you're right. I mean, there's jobs everywhere. They can go somewhere else. So, but we're not looking for people that want jobs. We're looking for people that buy into our vision and understand the concept of what we're trying to do, and keep them on track with that. And that's when we do that and we hire that way, it seems to work better, because now what you've done is not only told them that they're working for you, but how important they are in your organization.
Absolutely. And this is for when you get a little bit bigger, but nothing motivates someone more than meeting someone that used to be in their shoes. So I have an assistant, Jan, who's now head of my assistants, and she runs a lot of meetings and does a lot of projects. And whenever I hire a new assistant, I'm like, hey, meet Jan. She started off in the same place as you. She went through the exact same training. And people get really motivated by that. They know that I'm not just full of it, that if they work hard, that there is opportunity to advance and grow, and I'm going to give more responsibilities, and that someone that we put a lot of training in really likes being there. We even have a mentor program where any new freelancers to the network get to meet a freelancer that's been there for a while, so that they don't just take my word for it and take the other assistant's word for it, but they get to hear from other people. And it almost reinforces you as a boss and makes you treat people well when you have other people that can give feedback to your workers.
Absolutely.
Also, just showcase those who go above and beyond. We mentioned a lot about the little things. If you're a big company, or as you grow and make a lot of money, you can give out those bonuses and raises and extra trips or whatever it is. But when you're a small company, the little things matter. So if someone gets a good review from a client, or a compliment, or does a good job on an order or finding a product, tell the team about it. If you have those Monday morning meetings, which we're going to get to, it's one of my hacks, you recognize them. Be like, hey, Jane did an awesome job last week. This is what she did. And that's just going to motivate them to do more. And at the end of the day, it's just a good business decision. There's two sides of it. It's a nice thing to do, and it's warm and fuzzy, and it'll make you feel good and them feel good. But at the end of the day, it's a good business decision. It lowers turnover. It saves you money. And at some point, it's going to help expand your company. So just keep that in mind. Strive for consistency. And this is something that business owners struggle with a lot. And I do a lot of consulting about. I have clients that one day they'll come to work and they're yelling and screaming at their workers. And the next person, they try to be really nice and they think that it makes up for it. So having consistency from top to bottom of your business is so important. If you're constantly going up and down, if your moods changes, if the way you give instructions change, if the way you communicate change, if one day you're using email and the next day Slack and the next day Skype, it's incredibly confusing. So make sure that all aspects of your company are consistent. When you onboard them, make sure you're setting up a consistent schedule. Make sure that your work ethic is consistent. If you're someone that's very hands-off with your business, which is fine, you've gotten to that point where you can kind of take a step back. Don't spend 1 week going all out and then be like, okay, hey, I'm going to the Bahamas for 3 weeks, and then come back in and be like, all right, everyone, let's get motivated and pumped and ready to go. There's got to be some level of consistency, whatever you're doing. So that's one thing that I challenge myself to do, and Connor and I challenge ourselves to do, because everyone has those bad days or those frustrated things that come up. So really making sure that you have that consistent presence, that everything's going to be okay, and it trickles down. When you and your workers are consistent, or when you're consistent, your workers follow your example. So things that you can do right off the bat, I mentioned getting them on a schedule, having a good, very structured onboarding process, whether it's just handing them a sheet of paper, being like, hey, these are the company goals, this is our mission, let me know if you have any questions, or the mentorship program, or a certain training video they watch, or welcome video. Just making sure that everyone kind of gets that same onboarding, even if it's 4 different positions. Getting them to a schedule, getting them into routines, getting them to communicate with you all in the same way. You don't want to communicate with them here, there, and at every other place. You want them to have the same communication as well, and set that standard from the beginning. Hey, let me know before you go on breaks. Hey, send me an update once an hour, once a day, once a week, whatever it is, and just making sure it's incredibly consistent. I kind of jump on to the next one. So this is huge. And I actually had a pretty good client of mine who was just not getting the most out of his workers. And I was getting pretty frustrated with it, because I like to have a good experience for my clients. And I was giving him some top-notch workers that did a really good job for my other clients. And I just couldn't figure out why everyone was on different pages at all times. And I would talk to one worker and they would be like, hey, this is going on. And a different worker would say the other thing. And the other employees that weren't free up were saying something totally different. And at the end of it, I was like, Tom, do you ever have like these meetings with your team? Do you ever do that? And he was like, no, like, what do you recommend doing? So I kind of gave him the structure of having these Monday morning meetings. And it's something that I do every Monday at 10 a.m. My workers know to show up at that time, and we go through every team. We do a breakdown. We give an update. We talk about what's going well, what's going poorly, how the past week went, and what the goals are going forward. We let everyone share updates. It takes about an hour, sometimes less. And yes, I'm paying them for that time, and it costs a little bit, but it's so worth it. And it gets everyone motivated. I use it as a little motivation because at the end of it, I get them pumped up a little bit, ready to go for the week. And they seem to like that. But just getting everyone on the same page once a week is so important. Even we can tell, even when we skip one week, it's just not the same. People aren't as energized or as organized, and not as much gets done. Again, going back to workers want to feel a part of something. People want to be on a structured and consistent schedule. It all kind of links together. I recommend not doing a video call. I like a large Skype group chat just because Skype usually doesn't work when you're doing 20-person video calls. But having those chats going and making sure that everyone knows they have to be attentive and alert and ready to go. And really just keeping people up to date. I start off with the meeting, just giving people like 10 updates of what I worked on during the week or what's going on with the company, what software we're launching, what new clients we got or whatever it takes to get them to know what's going on with the company at this time and what long-term and what short-term projects are going on. It helps promote unity. People want to learn about other people on their team. Not every meeting, but every once in a while, I'll be like, hey, like tell me something about yourself, or hey, everyone share what they did this weekend. And just something to make it so it's a little less stressful, a little less intense. Show them that you care a little bit. They're all people, and this really adds to the company culture. And this is one of the things people don't realize is a lot of people, they're always talking down to their workers, like do this, do this, do this, do this, and that's just not how you build a company culture. You really want to build that sense of unity. And a lot of times you can do that very easily at a team meeting. It's a little harder when people have different schedules and they're kind of scattered everywhere throughout the week. I mean, I have a 20-person internal team that all works different time zones. Very rarely do they work the same schedule, but they all show up for the meeting and they know each other extremely well and they all work well together. So and it just gives you a better scope of your workforce. I mean, if you leave a Monday morning meeting being like, wow, that went terrible, or we are not organized at all, or hey, I need to start focusing on this team more. I need to spend an hour meeting with this person. A lot of the goals that you should be working on, you'll just get from that meeting, from hearing other people's feedback. One last thing, and I'll go to the last hack. Make sure that you're asking for people's feedback. The meeting is not a good time for it because a lot of people won't share their feedback in a group, especially if it's feedback for you as an owner. But making sure that people feel open to share their ideas and their feedback, even if you don't implement the ideas right away. I tell people, I'm like, listen, my to-do list is huge. If you give me a good idea, I'll put it as high up on a priority as it is, but that doesn't mean that every idea you send me, I'm just going to get done by the end of the week. I'm going to take it seriously. I'm going to ask you questions. I'm going to write it down, and I'm going to prioritize it along with the other tasks that I have. And people understand that. It makes them want to give feedback. People know that if they're like, hey, Nate, here's some recommendations for you, they know I'm not going to yell at them or fire them or make them look silly. And that takes time and practice. And by practicing the other things, by building a good company culture and having team meetings and organizations and being consistent with your mentality and your work ethic, it kind of leads to that more openness. And no one gives better feedback than not only your clients, but your workers. They're the ones there. If you go into a restaurant, you don't want to go in and ask the chef for feedback. He doesn't always know what's going on. You want to ask the people behind the scenes, the waiters, the bus staff, whatever, who's ever there doing the grunt work, because a lot of times they know where the inefficiencies are in the operation. So this kind of brings you to hack number 5. When you're hiring, don't just manage. And this took me years to figure out. I'm a much better manager than I am a leader. A lot of the leading has come in the past 4 years, not in the first 4. And that's something that Connor constantly challenged me to do. So I'm a good manager in the sense that I can look at 4 people's schedule and be like, okay, this needs to get moved here. This is how we'll make this more efficient. This is how these 2 teams will work together. Let's build this process. But there's a difference between managing and leading. Whereas you're managing, you're kind of that person talking down and assigning tasks and telling people what to do. Leading is getting the most out of your workers and motivating them. And a lot of people ask me, like, how do I get people to do things faster or do things quicker or better? And a lot of it is just taking a step back and getting them motivated for the task. No one wants to work for a boss that they don't care about, that is mean to them, that talks down to them, where they don't feel valued. So people want to work for a leader. They learn from it. They want to learn how to become leaders themselves. That's what everyone wants to be. So keep that in mind as you're building these teams, especially as your team gets above 5 or 10 people. It's much easier to manage. I can tell you that just based on experience. Even for me, I mean, sometimes I have to be like, okay, like I just had a great 1 hour meeting where I managed at a very high level. How do I take this to the next step and motivate it to end the meeting? It's hard to do. I recommend reading a lot of articles about influencing and motivating people. There's a lot of different ways to do it. Not everything works for every business. So keep that in mind, that what works for my business might not work for yours. And I mentioned before that when I was running my business with employees, I would give assistance to everyone. That's another way to expand your company. So there's really 3 ways to go about hiring workers once you get into that mindset. You can hire lower level people to take stuff off your plate. You can hire skilled and more advanced people to do things that you can't do, whether it's Google AdWords or graphic design, whatever it is, or the people that are already doing stuff at a high level. If you have this project manager that's awesome and you know you can trust her and she's been working with you for 3 years, go to her and be like, listen, where are you struggling? What stuff isn't at your pay grade? What assistance can I give you to take stuff off your plate so I can get more out of you? And a lot of that has to do with valuing their time as much as they're valuing your time. And just remember, as much free time as you have, even if you're running a lifestyle business, you still have to have a strong presence in the company, or you have to get someone in there that can. Workers are only as good as their leaders, only as good as their managers, only as good as their owners. So really having that mentality that your presence, whatever that is felt, is extremely important. Make sure you're checking up on your team. Daily reports are a good way to do this, even if you don't read all of them. I get a lot of daily reports every day, but it keeps people accountable. It gives you ability to check back, to always know what's going on. If people are constantly updating you and you still don't know what's going on in your company, that's really on you. It's not on them. So make sure that you get those updates, that you ask people about their work, that you make sure the teams are under control. Figure out how to divide your company into different teams. And there's always going to be those waves where one team is accelerating, the other team is kind of being held back a little bit. And that's where you can really focus your time, whether it's the accounting team or the photo team or the listing team, going in and figuring out how you can make them more efficient, what extra help they need, who to replace if it ever comes to that, and how to get the maximum amount of workers in each team that you need to run your business. Also find out, are they afraid to voice concerns? I have a lot of people that have been with me for a while, and I'll be like, hey, do you think the new people that just entered our company in the last 3 months, do you think they feel like they can express their opinions and their ideas and their feedback and their concerns? And if they say no, then I figure out how to make it a more open environment, because I know that that leads to change. And in the end, it's going to lead to more money for the business. And you want to always be a positive influence and influence their actions in a positive way. I mentioned people like to learn and grow. If you have an opportunity to teach someone and take someone under your wing, take it, because those end up being the best and most loyal workers. Let workers know that you're fair and that you respect them. I mentioned a lot about valuing their time. A lot of that can be not calling them every weekend to just bombard them with stuff, letting them know that you value their personal time as much as you value their work time. I have a lot of clients that think they can call workers whenever they want without any kind of structure or schedule. Being open to the feedback, understanding that bumps and bruises might happen, and figuring out whether if something's not going well, is it your fault on the training, on the onboarding, on the culture? Is it their fault on the skills? Did they lie about what they can do and what they can't do? Is it somewhere in the middle? A lot of times it's in the middle. So kind of figuring out where that is before making very harsh decisions. And then having a reliable team on your back just makes the grind so much more efficiently. I don't know what I do right now without my 20 person. I call them my A team, my internal team. They're incredible. There's just not enough hours in the week for me to do what they do or to even learn a lot of the skill sets they have. So I'm really nothing without them. And a lot of these tips that I shared will help you get a team like that as you grow your company. And it won't all come in day one, but hopefully 5 years from now, you're sitting back and this influenced you to kind of build that team to help free up your time. Last notes, and then I'll kind of throw it back to John and to questions. There's no perfect system. My system won't necessarily work for you. You can take what applies to you, you can tweak it, you can adjust it, you can learn from trials and errors that you have. I'm just kind of there to share advice and things tips that have helped me. Mistakes will always happen. I even make bad hires. I look at it as a percentage basis. If I'm making a high percentage of good hires at the end of the year, I mean, that's the best you can do. You're never going to be at 100%. Mistakes are going to happen. It's important you learn from the mistakes, so you don't let the mistakes drag on. You shouldn't let someone stick around for 6 months if you should have fired them on week one. You should just know that if you hire enough people, if people work enough hours, there's going to be mistakes. And that even goes to security on your account, on people messing up with things. People are human. Unless you hire robots or build software, it's going to happen. So you have to kind of go in and accept that. There's nothing you can do to make it 100%. But you can use workers in a very strong way to help minimize your mistakes. Having other people double check work is a great way to eliminate even more errors than people can make by human mistakes. So I have a lot of checks and balances in place on my accounting team, for example. I have 3 people and they all double check each other's work and they catch errors. And that's okay. We encourage people to speak up when there's errors, because when you find a problem, you can correct it and you can make sure that it doesn't happen again. So just keep in mind that you can use workers to turn mistakes into a positive instead of a negative. And experience can be passed down to improve growth. So making sure you keep people within your company and that they're passing down information. So if I have me and my assistants and then maybe their assistants and then maybe new people in the company, information should always be flowing down. So that's an important thing to remember. So yeah, I hope this was helpful. I hope you got at least a few good pieces of information to help you hire an effective team. And I'm happy to answer any questions you guys have.
Yeah, I just posted it, Nathan, to see if we have any questions. I think you filled them with a lot of information. So if you guys have any questions, now's the time to post them. So Nathan, while we have him here, you can get him to answer these questions. Let's pick his brain while we have him here. Let's he's got a lot of information that can help you guys when you're out there trying to hiring. And I agree with what Nathan said. It really does free up your time and allow you to grow your business a lot smoother and a lot quicker when you have a team behind you that is on the same page that you are on. I mean, we've been able to build our businesses that we have, and I could have never done it without Jim Corcoran basically telling me, hey, listen, you're doing all the work. And I was like, Nathan, I don't want to pay anybody. I want to keep all of it. I want to do myself. And I just kind of want to work and continue to grow and build my empire. But guess what? The empire only grows as good as you can get. And as good as you can get is only this 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And I don't care. You don't get any more time other than that, 7 days, 24 hours a day. But I found the power of networking and leveraging when I started to outsource and started to have other people help me. It was unbelievable that I could be on a business trip in Vegas and come back and not miss a beat and know that our income was not even affected while we were out there.
Yeah, I mean, I have people that cover my Skype account from 6 o'clock in the morning until 11 o'clock at night. And if I'm online, they're my assistants and they'll kind of help me with whatever I'm working on. But if I'm going to the gym or I'm out to dinner or I'm having free time, I know someone that's always covering my business, taking good care of my clients, making sure that everything keeps running. And then when I come back, I get quickly updated. The communication's there. And it's a very good feeling to have. I mean, as a business owner, you can lose a lot of nights sleep, especially when selling on Amazon and any e-commerce where you don't always have 100% control. Just knowing that your business is in good hands. And I can tell you from having different managers in place that I didn't feel as confident or as trusting, it's at a great place now where I wouldn't trade that feeling for anything.
Yeah, it's just unbelievable. Adrian has I guess they have a question, so I'm waiting for him to post it. He raised his hand. Instead of raising your hand, I'm not sure how that works with Zoom yet about raising their hand. So I asked him to post his question in the chat. I'm not even knowing if I'm pronouncing it right. It's Adriennee. How do you pronounce that?
Yeah, Adrian, I think. I have someone on my team that I think that's Adrian.
That's what I thought it was Adrian.
Hey, Charlie.
Puppy agrees.
I know. He hasn't barked all day, and the second I get on a webinar.
Yeah, he's just excited, that's all. Sorry, don't have a question.
No big deal.
Any of you guys have questions for Nathan while he's here? Getting started, how he gets started. We have another John raised his hand. John, instead of raising your hand, I'm not sure how that process works. I'm sorry. Nathan, you know how Zoom raising your hand works?
I know. I usually have people post in there.
Yeah, I mean, if you could post it, if you have a question, John, if you could post, that would be great.
You're very welcome. You can also check out the online hiring mastermind group if you haven't joined that already. We post a lot of great content. The Free Up blog, we're always posting good hiring and recruiting and onboarding tips there. And then you can also check out, geez, Charlie, chill. You can also check out this new book that we're launching. We don't have a name for it yet, but it's going to be about 50 tips about running a startup and bootstrapping startups, because I've now bootstrapped 2 startups and I will have a lot of successful hiring tips. Hey. Sorry, John. I'm going to sign off and take care of him. I apologize.
He's just excited, that's all. You know what? That's what makes it real about these webinars. I love it because it's real. I mean, everything happens behind the scenes. You know, you can't fake this stuff. You know, you can't plant that dog behind there and have him. You know, he's just happy and excited. You guys have any other questions for Nathan while we still have him here? As far as, you know, how to get started, how he got started, or just anything in general that pertains to helping build a team. It doesn't necessarily have to be about, you know, with Nathan, it's a lot about, you know, he does a lot of VAs and those type of things where we have VAs also, but it also could be in your own business. I mean, this can apply to anything as far as, you know, I love what he said about the meetings. We have meetings once a month. I've never done them once a week, but once a month we do have them, and we do go over the pros and cons. We go over, you know, things that are working, things that need to be worked on, goals that we have for the month, you know, and we have incentives. If they reach their goals, sometimes we buy the whole team, you know, we'll buy them lunch for the day.
Yeah, I mean, you can find lots of ways to motivate people besides just giving them a bonus.
Someone said, awesome info. Thanks to you both. John was very thorough. Joy Bella. I think she meant Nathan was very thorough. I'm thinking, because John didn't do much of anything, Joy Bella. So I'm just here hosting it. Nathan's the one with all the knowledge on, you know, what he's been able to do. And like I said, in my own Nathan, but you are awesome also. Thank you. I appreciate that. But yeah, Thank you. Is, you know, we have those incentives, just like what Nathan said. I mean, you can be applied to any kind of business, and we do it all the time. And like I said, we buy lunch, or, you know, sometimes we'll give a day off. You know, it really depends on, you know, what they've done as far as if we reached our goals or not, which we want to, you know, what goals we have set. There's certain different times. But I think the biggest thing is about communicating and letting your staff know. I think I came from a big company before in the corporate world, and I think a lot of big companies consider you numbers. They don't even consider you people. And we get a lot of that from our workers where they've said, you know what, we've been called a number before. Well, you're a human being. You know, you're here for a reason. God's put you here for a reason, you know, and you need to be treated like one. And one thing we do is and Nathan kind of touched on this a little bit, is when we do have to train and teach, we do it constructively. We never degrade a person. We never get on them. We always talk in positive ways and make sure that they understand that what we're talking about is in the best interest of the company, and this is how they're going to achieve that. And we do it constructively. We never want to, you know, put them down or or degrade them. You know what? Because there's enough places that they worked before us probably that have done that. And you don't want to be going in. Our workers that work for us, just like what Nathan's saying, they enjoy coming here. We have an atmosphere where they don't come in thinking that they're just going to be a worker. They come in knowing that they're part of a vision, and they know that we have things in place. You know, we have a retirement plan for our workers. We do the things that, you know, we're a small business, and we do the things that, you know, a lot of small businesses don't do, and a lot of businesses don't do in general. You know, we match their retirement up to a certain percent. So you got to keep in mind, if you want to keep good workers, they're very hard to find. I can tell you that as well as Nathan. You got to be doing.
I've had clients that have trained someone for a month and they said one wrong thing and the person found it insulting and the person quit right there. I mean, you have to really pay attention to what you say. And a lot of business owners are very logical thinkers, and they have a thick skull, and they're used to, hey, if you put me down, I'm going to get back up. But other people have different levels of emotion. So you got to keep that in mind and really use that to your advantage rather than having it set your company back. I also forgot to mention that anyone that signs up, and you can use John's affiliate link or sign up using his name, you get $1 off your first worker forever. Make sure you do that. It's free to sign up. There's no monthly fees. You can do it right on the site. It takes 5 minutes, and you can meet any worker you want. No obligation, no commitment, no minimums.
I don't even know if I put the affiliate down here. I forgot all about that. I don't know if you have it handy or not, but I don't know if I did it or not.
I don't, but I can get it to you, and you can put it in the show notes.
Yeah, I'll put it in the show notes. But yeah, it's, you know, you just got to treat your workers the way that, you know, they should be treated, and just, you know, have those goals and have things set for them, and let them know that what the expectations are for your company. And it's like I said, it's hard, but if you have the right things in place and you treat them as a person and make them understand the concept of what you're trying to achieve and how much of a importance they are to that goal, then you'll be fine. But it's very hard to find. And when you find top people and you do all that, the important thing is to understand that you have to train them. And once you train them, you don't want to have to train them again. You don't want to have to train somebody new, because you go through all that training and then have to do it over again. Like what Nathan was saying, it's cost you a lot of money. So if you find the right people, treat them the way that you want yourself to be treated, and then you'll be fine. How much do graphic designers workers pay average at?
Yeah, so I have graphic designers and writers from $5 to $50 an hour. I mean, I have some top-notch people who do 3D designs, and they're more towards that 30 to 50 range. I have some Filipino workers that do a lot of basic Photoshop and basic designs or basic logos. That's more in that $5 to $10 range, and really everything in between. It really depends on what you're looking for.
And how do you manage, Nathan, because you have a lot of international type VAs that work for free up? How do you, as far as time frames, because I know a lot of projects, there's different time zones, and while we're sleeping, they're waking up. So how do you get them to do the projects needed on a timely manner where someone says, you know, they need a certain project done by this time, but yet they're basing it on their time, knowing that your Philippine person is like, what, 12 hours behind, something like that?
Yeah, so we preach communication, and that goes both on the worker and the client side. On the worker side, we make sure that they give time zones and not just times. We also have workers that can work any time zone. So if you request a customer care worker that can work 12 to 2 Eastern time every Saturday, we're only introducing you to someone that can work from 12 to 2 every Saturday. The other side of that is educating the clients, making sure that if they say, hey, something is due on Wednesday, does that mean Tuesday night? Does that mean Wednesday morning? Does that mean Wednesday night? What time zone? So just making sure that there's no gray area when you're communicating. And that's something that we preach at a very high level.
Yeah, you got to have that open line of communication, because that's important, especially when you're dealing with a lot of international type people. So the book's coming out when? Do we know yet?
It should be in the next 30 days. We're doing some final proofreading right now.
All right, we're going to have Nathan back on, guys, when the book comes out, because Nathan's excited about his book. We want to bring him back on here, and you want to give them a kind of a little sneak peek of what something might be in there, like a little teaser?
Yeah, so it's 50 tips that I use to bootstrap companies. I knew very little about running multi-million dollar companies before I was kind of thrown into the fire. So one kind of lesson that I'll leave you with is diversification. I learned very early on in my first company how important that was. For example, and the book is full of stories from my past experiences. I was running this big company. I had one vendor. Everything was going great. I was making more money than I had ever made before. I was at this ultimate high, and I took a vacation, my first vacation in a while, and I got a call within 24 hours of being on vacation from the person that was covering for me that I'd spent weeks training, that our biggest vendor had decided to drop us eventually, or effective in 1 week. So I went from this huge high to this huge low. And it ended up being a blessing in disguise, because when I got back from vacation, we started contacting lots of different vendors, lots of manufacturers, and really spread our suppliers over a very diverse base. And before we knew it, we were way bigger than we were before and more protected. So it was just a lesson on diversification. And that goes a lot of different ways, whether you're talking about different revenue streams, different suppliers, or even different workers. You don't want to hire one person and teach them to do everything, because if they quit in 6 months, that could set your business back another 6 months getting someone trained. So just having a very diverse business and learning that from a very real hard example early on really helped me make my other businesses, or my original business and Free Up, a lot more secure and a lot more diverse going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just checking something while you were talking. I was just kind of scanning over something. Let's see. Guys, it looks like on Thursday, I checking my schedule. I'm trying to see if I can get it into my schedule, but it looks like on Thursday, I might be doing a webinar, just my webinar with me, just basically on fulfillment centers and why you need a fulfillment center, and why you don't at certain points in your business, and going over and letting you guys know about how to send product into Amazon, what types of products to send to Amazon, and what things you don't want to be sending to Amazon, and how you want to be sending to Amazon, and those type of things. Because I think that's a big a subject that a lot of people don't understand, is that, you know, when you're using the fulfillment center, you want to make sure that you're actually sending the products, or having the fulfillment center send the products in the way according to Amazon's guidelines. So I might be doing that on Thursday afternoon. I will be posting that tomorrow if I decide that I have the spot open for that. I haven't decided yet. I got a lot of things going on, so I might be doing that though. Hey Nathan, it's been great having you here. Anybody wants to reach out and get in touch with you, how can they do that?
Yeah, so you can get us on Skype, the Free Up Skype account. You can go right to our blog. I mentioned the online hiring mastermind group. Feel free to add me on Facebook and Twitter. Right on freeup.com with 3 E's. You can schedule a meeting right with me if you want to talk more about your business and how we can help you. I love helping other business owners. Thanks a lot, John.
Hey, it's been a pleasure. God bless you. And we'll be talking to you soon when the book, can't wait for that book to come out.
Looking forward to it.
All right. Take care, Nathan.